Today's guest is Ben Soccodato, an experienced financial advisor with Barnum Financial Group. Ben is the co-founder of Team SKG, a high-performing team from within the firm. He also happens to be a colleague and a friend of mine for over 15 years. Ben has constantly grown his career. We're going to learn from Ben his ups and downs, the strategies employed, and the mental fortitude it took to reach this level. I'm Paul Blanco, and this is Small Steps, Big Wins. Welcome, Ben Soccodato, to the show here today, and so happy to have you. And as I was prepping for this, I'm super excited about having you here today. And I was thinking about it. I believe I met you back in May of 2005, right off the college campus here in the Shelton location. And I remember you did your interview and then you were walking out and I ran into you in the hallway. I just talked to you for a few minutes. You told me where you were from, Sacred Heart. You had been in our Series 7 class there.
Yep.
And you were super hungry. I could just see your eyes and what you were thinking. And I asked you a couple of questions. And then I went to Joe Lopresti and I said, hey, I want to meet with this guy in his next interview. And I remember going through basically all the things we do at Barnum. And you had no idea that firms like this existed. You were all set to go on to Wall Street. And, we roped you back in, and now, you fast forward, gee whiz, that was 18 years ago that you've been here.
Yep. And
you've had an amazing career so far. And I really believe you're just beginning, but I want to just go backwards a little bit. So you get here in 2005, you're driven and focused and ready to go, learning a new industry. And then in 2017, you get to the top 1% of the industry. Tell me, was that a goal, or how did you find yourself? What were you thinking? And how did that happen? And share it with me.
I remember the first day that I met you very clearly, and, thinking this is somebody I could relate to. There's a sincerity about how this person is speaking to me that was very different than the other people that I met, and that attracted me to want to continue the interview process and come to work in Shelton, Connecticut, even though that was a long ways away from home. I remember starting off, and my first year, 2 years or so in the business, like many young financial advisors, you're trying to do anything that you can to get in front of people and get your activity to a level that, you're consistently producing. Had some success early on with friends and family and natural market, but had an opportunity presented to me within my first 6 months of being here at Barnum. And I think this is, an attribute to the culture that we've created here of giving, that a gentleman that was 35 plus years in the business essentially gave me an opportunity at the time, which I thought was absolute gold, to call on what was orphan book of business, people that hadn't been serviced for years, that had existing relationships with the firm or a previous firm. And it was an opportunity for me to get out and about and start to fill my calendar and evolve as a financial advisor. I had the challenge of looking very young.
You still look that way. Thank God.
The bags are coming in more and more. But, and partially that's, I think, head trash in the industry. When you're young in the industry, you're like, how can somebody trust me with giving up control of their finances, with managing their money? So for me early on, the critical component to differentiate myself, I thought, was education. And I was committed in the early stages of my career to get every license, to get every designation, and to rise to the top of the education charts in our industry, to really overcompensate for my fear of looking young and feeling like people weren't going to trust a young person.
Sure. And it's not just that you were young, it was years of experience too.
I was young.
Right?
I
So
didn't have the experience. So I would say the certified financial planner course work and then leading up to the main exam really gave me a huge, uh, shot of confidence in the arm. I believe I got that in 2008. And at that point, a lot of other opportunities at the firm started to open up for me.
that's super exciting. I want to come back to the education because, well, let's do it right now. I think that that's amazing how you separated yourself, and we were always preaching about doing that, and you did it. But that journey has continued. You have like 3 or 4 designations. You're still in study groups. You're still learning every single day. And we talk about being a lifelong learner. I feel that you represent that. And is that something that you got in 7 and 8 when you did that? Or because now you're at the top, but you're still doing it. So, share a little bit about that.
I think if you don't evolve, you die. You've preached that in Barnum, that ultimately every year we look at things, we break them down and we rebuild them. And, I've always taken that approach to heart in my own business. And I feel like you have to practice what you preach. We have a lot of young advisors that are looking up to us at this point, and it's important to show them that we're never done learning. The industry is always changing. Something new is happening, on a month-over-month basis, maybe even too frequently these days, whether it be the current banking situation, whether it be the war in Ukraine, whether it be COVID just a little while ago. You can never know everything in this industry. And we've created, thankfully, a culture here at Barnum where the top advisors are willing to share. Something I may not have been aware of that a peer has utilized in their practice and has been successful with could literally be something that in a group setting, that was kind of thrown out there. I could take that and apply it immediately in my business, and it can make a dramatic impact overnight. So the study groups that we participate in at the firm, externally outside of the firm, we participate in personally in business leader programs to think about staffing, growth and development and retainment of your key employees. I mean, these are all things that, we need to keep getting better at every day to be able to continue to grow.
Yeah, it's exciting. And then when you think about it, and we'll talk about this as we go through this, but you went from an advisor to really a business owner. And that's a major paradigm shift that people have to be a little uncomfortable with when they first start in this industry, that's where it's going if you want to get to the level. But let's go back to, top 1%, 2017. How did that feel getting to that? You started that journey 12 years later, you get there. And how did it feel at that moment?
We're an industry and a firm that uses data and statistics as a means to drive us. And I always believed that I could get to the top of our profession, that it was purely a matter of when, not if, and that if I stayed consistent and disciplined and structured with, my day-to-day, that good results would happen. Somehow I'm a person that when I've accomplished goals in life, I've gotten there and I've just kind of always said, what's next? I haven't maybe taken the time to take a step back and smell the roses. That's a character flaw potentially. But, I remember reaching that mark very clearly, and what a struggle it was to break through certain barriers. Retainment of employees was a real challenge for us in the early stages. The constant revolving door, is disruptive to growing your business. Market conditions. We lived through 08, 09, which was one of the worst economic conditions in history during that period of time. And as a young advisor, that was frightening.
Sure.
But it did give me a sense of, wow, I can accomplish anything. Right? If it took me 12 years to get here, my goal was for the people that I surround myself with that were on my team for them to get there quicker, right? I kind of blazed a trail, and now I'm going to show you how to accelerate that path. And that's always been now a goal for all the advisors on our team, to get to that 1% club and get it quicker than the person before you.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And I feel like the more you give in life, the more you get back, and you don't do it for that, but you could see it's just benefiting you and your team dramatically when you think about it. So stay on where you were. Like, you got there. You didn't take the time really to celebrate it the way maybe some people do. And I find that, entrepreneurs sometimes do that to themselves, and you're working through that and continuing to learn. But so you go there, and now, 5 years later, you go to 4 times what you were doing. What changed in the mindset? Like, was there a shift? Like, you got there and you said, all right, I'm here now and I want to get here? Or was it just like, all right, I'm just going to keep building. And then next thing you know, you wake up 5 years later and, you're at a whole nother level.
I think just getting your first win in anything is the toughest, right? We always, you and I talk sports quite a bit. And I feel like that milestone was a big win in my personal journey. And once that barrier was broken, the ceiling of complexity to then grow to where we are today, had a lot less friction. Okay. We've been blessed with some great opportunities. Certainly the last few years in what's transpired at the firm, we've been great benefactors of that, and happy to obviously talk more about the specific programs, which have led us here. But I remember every year I do goal setting personally, and the first question in my goal setting book is, what defines success to you? And I've done this every year since 2006. And I look back at my previous years, and I think in the 2017 version, I defined success as removing myself or my business partner, Chris, from the equation, and still having the business run successfully without the top producer. And it was that mindset shift of, it's no longer, a small business, one-man show per se. I mean, this is now an enterprise.
Yeah. So I'd like to dig in a little on that. And how many people were on the team in 17?
I think in 17, you're probably looking at 15 to 20 people in that range.
Right. And now fast forward to today.
We have 36 today.
So almost double.
Yep.
In a short period of time.
Yep. Right. And I often think, like, if I didn't show up for the next month, 6 months, a year, I mean, the clients may miss me, but they'll be well taken care of, because the systems and processes have already been created where Ben could be out and the next guy is going to step in, or gal is going to step in and give the client an experience that feels very much like what they've been experiencing for the last 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah. And I think about the industry, and I think that that's such a huge point, because if you're taking a client out, let's say they invite you to a golf tournament and you're playing golf with them all day. And let's go back to 2008 and the market's going crazy. They're probably wondering, like, who's back at the office, right? Watching my money or watching my insurance or whatever it is.
Right.
And now there must be great comfort when the clients, it's almost something that they might not say, but they see. And I commend you for having that forward thought of building, as you use the word, an enterprise. And then I think it's important that people understand that you said something that was very, very important, was systems and processes, right? I believe that trains run on tracks, And I think you've done that. And, for the audience, I think it's important that you remember back to what Ben said earlier about having great turnover because you were growing and you probably didn't have the same systems and processes and some of the things that you've built today to build the enterprise that you build. So congratulations on that. But that's something that you all should be taking notes on if you're driving, but if you're back at your office or something, and you listen to this, write that down because that's really important.
Well, we built our whole business on the philosophy of a repeatable process. Every first appointment, whether it's myself or one of the advisors on the team, should look and feel the same. The deliverable on the next meeting should look and feel the same. The approach after that meeting should look and feel the same. That way, the internal team knows what to do in preparation for the next meeting. There's no gray area. And I believe that's what's allowed us to really scale here over the last 5 years.
Yeah, which is amazing. So back in 17 or prior, let's think about it. So is your day-to-day, Ben's day-to-day as a financial advisor / business owner / entrepreneur, is your day-to-day very different today than it was even just 5 years ago?
It is. Because of the pandemic, I think we are now in a world where Zoom has made us, very efficient. And I think back in 2017, 95, if not 100% of meetings were like in-person meetings. I mean, there's likely some phone reviews in there as well, but we're talking new business for the most part, that was in person. Today, 100% of our business is on Zoom. And, I remember, I think it was 2019, we were at ALU, kind of watching a presenter talk through what I wanted at that time. I wanted to be able to coach my kids' sports and be around my family. And, I just knew that wasn't going to be possible while still continuing to grow the business based upon the fact that we had to, travel so much. So my day today is, jam-packed with client meetings. And then we have dedicated time on a weekly and monthly basis to work on the business with the advisor group and then, essentially the partners on the team.
It's amazing. And it sounds like, just like you said, systems and process, the structure is very disciplined, maybe not rigid, but super disciplined.
Yes.
And I think that's amazing that you have that. So yeah, let's think about that. 2005, you came in the business, single, now I fast forward back to, one of the things about being a complete person, beautiful wife, 3 children, talk about how you're balancing all that. And I think that a lot of people in our industry will think that someone went from here to here like this rocket ship, right, in a short period of time. And all they do is, work, 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 work. And I know you work hard, but I feel like you've, in the last couple of years, have found somewhat of a balance in that. Now, maybe some of it happened due to, not traveling as much.
Sure.
But share the mentality around that too.
I think work-life balance in your 20s was best said by Theo Epstein. We saw him present once at one of the conferences, and he said, in your 20s and your early 30s, you just work. And, I think about myself prior to having children. I came from kind of a blue collar environment. I was, I needed to earn income personally as a young person in order to support myself. So I remember in the early stages of my career, after getting home, at 8 or 9 o'clock, getting on and then studying for a couple hours, or, every Saturday dedicating the first 3 hours of my day to business. And I believe in my 20s and early 30s, by putting that work in, it's now enabled me today at 40 to now, be able to coach 70 baseball games. I think this year is what we're aiming for, and coach basketball for my kids, and do the things that are really important to me. And that wasn't always the case. And I feel blessed to now have the control of my day-to-day and my schedule, where I can fit, the extracurricular things in for my family, as well as, be there and be a good leader on the team, be very present in all instances.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think that it's interesting you use the word present. I've done so many presentations throughout my career on being present, be where your feet are. And that's not easy, especially when you're younger in business in general. And I think it's really important that you've done that. Congratulations on that, because that is super, super important. While we're on that, the balance, I mean, that I'm a fitness nut, and I love training and all that. And I think it helps me. I find that when I train, I start my day out, first thing in the morning with working out, everything else comes together. And I know you've went through your ups and downs with that, but
Sure.
For the most part now, it seems to become a bigger part of your life. Do you feel that that's helping you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've always loved getting in the gym. I've always loved training, and you have to find the right balance for you. When you have late nights and early mornings, and you have little kids that are getting up in the middle of the night, it becomes very difficult to say, hey, my priority is to get to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yep. Thankfully, we're, out of diapers in my house. I wouldn't say every night is a perfect sleep, but, I've now found the rhythm personally where before doing anything in my day, I get my workout in. And I think I took that from you. And, I've had different goals in these goal books, 4 workouts a week, 5 workouts a week. And now I'm just of the mindset that you do it every day, right? Just like you get up and you brush your teeth, and you get up and you comb your hair, some of us.
That's mean.
You exercise, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an hour and a half.
Yep.
Right. But if you can get 20 or 30 minutes in and get your day going, especially when it feels hard, I think that's where you can have breakthroughs in your fitness as well. And that helps you.
Yeah. And I think what you just said is a key thing. I think that's when you have to push through when it's the hardest, and it's a sense of discipline that you achieve for yourself, and that carries into the rest of your things though. So, I think that's great. So you got, you're running the business, you got a great team, you're building systems, you're still learning every day. You got your fitness, you got the balance with the family. Now you got this great balance in your life. And let's go backwards. You talked about how, after the pandemic, you're doing a lot of your meetings, or 100% of your meetings, on Zoom. But I also know that your team is now national, and you're selling in all the states, and your, client meetings and your reach has just grown dramatically. Talk a little bit about that.
As a firm, we've been blessed with a tremendous opportunity to now work nationally and not locally. It's created for our advisors an unlimited source of opportunity, where folks that are separating service from their employer, losing their group benefits, are coming to us and seeking advice in many different ways. It could be retaining their insurance that they may have lost. It could be, hey, I need to figure out the next chapter for myself, whether that be retirement or some kind of transition plan. So the program has increased our reach, and it's required us to become more efficient. to understand the time commitments necessary to work with as many clients as we are, we need to be very stringent about our time. And what we would want to kind of have this business continue to progress towards is more of the ecosystem of the team, where again, it isn't Ben that's necessarily servicing me and is my point of contact solely. There may be a specialist that's helping with their taxes. There may be a specialist that's helping with their Medicare. There may be a specialist that's helping with their auto and homeowners insurance. There's so many different facets of personal financial planning that we can now bring to the table, where the client no longer becomes dependent on the one advisor. They're dependent on the team and the ecosystem and the service that we've created around it. So through the use of group education, where we're doing a lot of group educational workshops via Zoom, and the support of the team in the different lines of business, it's allowed us to expand our reach.
As I'm sitting here, knowing the industry, but also thinking as a client, consumer, when you start talking about the Medicare and the PNC and the auto and home, I start to think to myself, our lives as clients are so complicated, and there's so many things, inherent risk we have, and it's very hard for a financial advisor that maybe doesn't know all those parts of your life to make the right decisions for you, because as you do one thing, it might affect something else. And, it's amazing that you've built this, model that is taking care of everything. So when you're looking at a client, you're truly looking at their whole financial life. And I think, as a client, they got to feel that there's so much stress being relieved. And, it's like one-stop shop. I remember just living in my household, our parent, we didn't grow up with much, but they had it all over the place. And you've done that for your clients. So congratulations on that. And, you're paying it forward, teaching that to other people. So really, really nice
Thank
work. It's amazing the run. And like I said earlier, you're just beginning, but what are some of the, challenges you wake up with on a daily basis? Are there some still? Or are you just like, is it a push button operation?
I wish. I think any entrepreneur can relate to the challenges of retaining top talent, rewarding top talent, finding talent today, which is very difficult. And the biggest advantage that I believe we have as an organization is that we've created a culture that is founded on enjoying each other's company and being open about issues. We've created an environment for the advisors to speak of their challenges, formally on a monthly basis. We regularly do our employee reviews on a quarterly basis and measure where they're tracking towards their goals. And we're very transparent about, things like bonuses and compensation, and trying to improve policies on personal time off, and trying to improve policies on maternity leave, as these all become issues that are maybe not big issues day one in the business, but as you start to build your team, become
with
bigger.
36 people, you have to think about those things.
Right. So
you still face these challenges. So it's retaining talent, it's continuing to learn, it's new systems, new processes. So, you said something earlier though, that I want to dig in on. Many people in business, they hit what you said, you used the word, the ceiling of complexity, right? Now you've broke through that. But if I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm someone that's at that ceiling right now, or the perceived ceiling, right? Because sometimes it's just your mental thought of where it is. What would you do if you were them? Give them some advice.
I think the best advice is to take that step back and write down what your biggest challenges are. Right. And if you can think through what's occupying your mental space, what's occupying your personal time that isn't allowing you to get to your goals, and then come up with a plan as to how to address that, whether that be hiring somebody. Maybe it's not taking on a certain type of client. Maybe it's selling a portion of your book that's going to enable you to get to the next level. I think everybody's different. But we get so caught in the day-to-day of our business. We need to be able to have outlets to take a step back and think about how things are going and assess, what the next steps are to get to the next level.
It's great. Great advice. Thank you for that. So last two questions, what's motivating you now? What's your biggest motivator?
When I leave check out one day, I want to be viewed as the best. I want, when somebody's talking to one of my kids about dad as a financial advisor, he was the best. And he impacted a lot of people positively, advisors, clients, and I want to be a good role model for them.
Well, I was going to ask you why, but you answered it. So, thank you again, Ben Soccodato, for being here. It's been an honor watching the journey. It's great, the stuff you shared today. For all the people listening, there's a lot of great things there. Make sure you listen, go back, take some notes, and apply some of the things that Ben is doing to get to the top. And, the coolest thing about watching and being part of it is that I really believe, and I know this, that you're really just begun, and keep that hunger, keep the drive, stay balanced. And thank you again for being on today.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
A lot of fun. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every bit helps. You can also follow us on Instagram at Small Steps, Big Wins.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484. Telephone number 203-513-6000.